The tingling excitement of a potential connection buzzed through me as I swiped right on Alex's profile. His charming smile and seemingly genuine personality made me eager for our first date. We agreed to meet at a quaint cafe nestled in the heart of the city, a perfect spot for a casual introduction. As I approached the cafe, my anticipation turned to a knot of anxiety. The man sitting at the corner table bore little resemblance to Alex in his profile picture. His smile seemed forced, and his eyes darted nervously as I approached. Trying to be polite, I smiled and sat down, hoping the awkwardness was just a hiccup. The conversation started with the usual small talk, but the atmosphere was thick with discomfort. Alex seemed distracted, occasionally glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone. I dismissed it, attributing his odd behavior to first date jitters. As we delved into deeper conversation, I noticed Alex mentioning details about my life that I hadn't shared. It wasn't the typical getting to know you banter. It was unnerving specifics that sent shivers down my spine. How did he know about my childhood pet or the obscure town where I spent my summers? I mustered the courage to ask, and his response sent a chill through my veins. "Sometimes you just know things about people," he said with a cryptic smile, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. Dread settled in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, studied like a specimen under a microscope. The cafe's cozy ambience transformed into a claustrophobic trap. "I need to go," I stammered, my voice betraying the unease I felt. As I hurriedly exited the cafe, Alex's parting words echoed in my mind. "We'll meet again soon," he whispered, his voice carrying a haunting certainty. That night, my unease escalated when my phone buzzed incessantly with messages from an unknown number. Each message revealed intimate details about my day, where I went, who I spoke to, what I ate. Panic set in as I realized Alex had morphed into a digital stalker, unraveling the fabric of my privacy with unsettling precision. I spent sleepless nights combing through my social media, changing passwords, and tightening security settings. Yet, the messages persisted, as though Alex had an uncanny ability to infiltrate every corner of my life. The digital invasion left me feeling exposed, vulnerable to an unseen presence that lurked in the shadows. In a desperate attempt to regain control, I confided in a close friend, who suggested involving the authorities. The thought of confronting Alex sent shivers down my spine, but the alternative, living under the constant gaze of an unknown watcher, was even more terrifying. The police investigation revealed that Alex had employed sophisticated hacking techniques to breach my digital footprint. It was a chilling realization that the stranger I had met online was not only a master manipulator but also a skilled cyberstalker. With the evidence collected, a restraining order was issued against Alex, but the scars of the ordeal lingered. Months passed, and I cautiously resumed a semblance of normalcy. Yet, the fear of being watched, the paranoia that someone was lurking in the virtual shadows, never truly dissipated. The scars of that harrowing experience remained etched in the back of my mind. The dating app, once a portal to potential connections, now felt like a gateway to the unknown, a realm where trust was a fragile illusion. The incident left me questioning the authenticity of every online interaction, a specter of doubt that hovered over even the most genuine expressions of interest. As I navigated the complexities of healing, I couldn't shake the haunting feeling that Alex, whether physically or digital, continued to watch, waiting for an opportunity to reassert control. This dating horror story had become an indelible chapter in the narrative of my life, forever altering the way I approach relationships in the digital age. The dating app introduced me to Jake, a guy with an air of mystery. He had a profile picture that exuded confidence, and his messages were charismatic. We decided on an unconventional first date, exploring an abandoned warehouse that supposedly held a dark and mysterious history. It sounded thrilling, and I was up for an adventure. We met at the warehouse. A colossal relic of a forgotten era loomed in the distance. I met Jake outside, and as we approached the entrance, a shiver ran down my spine. The creaking doors swung open with an eerie groan, inviting us into the shadows within. The air was thick with a damp, musty scent, and the only illumination came from the feeble moonlight filtering through broken windows. As we delved deeper into the cavernous space, the atmosphere grew more ominous. Graffiti-covered walls whispered tales of those who had been there before us, and my imagination painted vivid images of the lives once intertwined with this decaying structure. Jake, seemingly unfazed, led the way with a flashlight in hand. Midway through our exploration, I heard a distant sound, a rustle that didn't match the echoing silence. I called out to Jake, and he turned with a cryptic smile, his eyes glinting in the darkness. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jake's smile widened, and he motioned for me to follow him. The sound persisted, now more distinct, footsteps echoing through the abandoned halls. My heart pounded in rhythm with each step. "Just the echoes of the past," Jake assured me, his voice carrying an unsettling calmness. As we turned a corner, Jake abruptly vanished into thin air. Panic set in as I stood alone in the dark, surrounded by shadows that seemed to reach out for me. "Jake?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response. The footsteps returned, louder now, closing in from all directions. I stumbled upon a room bathed in dim light, its floor strewn with old newspapers and remnants of a forgotten era. Among the debris, a tattered leather-bound diary caught my eye. Its pages, yellowed with time, spoke of clandestine meetings, unsolved disappearances, and a malevolent force believed to reside within the warehouse. My hands trembled as I read about a group of people drawn to the warehouse, seeking answers to life's mysteries. The last entry detailed the writer's own disappearance, a chilling account of being swallowed by the shadows that lurked within. The date matched the current year. Fear gripped me as I clutched the diary. The footsteps were now accompanied by whispers, indistinct but haunting. I retraced my steps, desperately seeking an exit. The warehouse, once an intriguing adventure, had transformed into a labyrinth of nightmares. As I navigated the maze of corridors, the whispers grew louder, forming words that sent shivers down my spine. "Stay with us," they murmured, a chorus of ghostly voices pleading for companionship in the eternal darkness. My breath quickened, and every corner turned revealed more graffiti, each word a desperate plea from those who had entered but never left. Just when despair threatened to consume me, a glimmer of light appeared. The exit. Relief flooded over me as I burst out into the cool night air. Gasping for breath, I looked around, half expecting Jake to materialize from the shadows. But he remained lost within the depths of the warehouse, swallowed by the same darkness that had claimed countless others. I stumbled away from the haunted structure, my mind reeling with the supernatural encounter. The night seemed colder, the moonlight harsher, casting elongated shadows on the pavement. I vowed never to return to that forsaken place, haunted not only by the ghosts of its past but also by the chilling realization that some mysteries were better left unsolved. The crisp mountain air greeted me as I arrived at David's secluded cabin for our romantic weekend getaway. Nestled deep in the woods, it seemed like the perfect escape from the hustle of city life. David, a tall and charming man I had met through a dating app, was there to welcome me with a warm smile. Little did I know that this seemingly idyllic retreat would soon turn into a chilling nightmare. As we settled into the cabin, surrounded by towering trees, I couldn't shake a subtle feeling of unease. The isolation was both beautiful and haunting, amplifying every creak and rustle outside. David, however, was attentive and sweet, easing my concerns with his comforting presence. The first night passed uneventfully, with a crackling fire and the soft glow of candlelight creating a romantic ambience. David prepared a delicious dinner, and we shared stories by the fire. Everything seemed perfect until I noticed a peculiar glint in his eyes, a fleeting expression that hinted at a hidden agenda. The following day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, David suggested a moonlit walk through the woods. The moon cast an ethereal glow on the forest, creating an enchanting atmosphere. We strolled hand in hand, the crunch of fallen leaves beneath our feet the only sound breaking the silence. As we reached a clearing, David suggested a detour to a small, abandoned chapel he claimed to have stumbled upon during his previous visits. Intrigued, I followed him deeper into the woods until the chapel emerged from the shadows. Its weathered exterior told tales of forgotten prayers and faded memories. Inside, the air felt heavier, and the dim light filtered through crack-stained glass windows added to the eerie ambience. I shivered, suddenly aware of the isolation surrounding us. David, however, seemed unaffected, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. The flickering candlelight revealed an old wooden chest tucked away in a corner. David approached it with a purposeful stride, producing an ornate key from his pocket. My curiosity piqued, and I couldn't resist asking about the chest's contents. With a mysterious smile, he explained that the cabin held a rich history, and the chest contained artifacts that connected the past to the present. As he opened it, my eyes widened at the sight of an assortment of old photographs, letters, and trinkets. One item, in particular, caught my attention, a dusty diary with a faded leather cover. David handed me the diary, urging me to explore its pages. The entries spoke of love, loss, and a profound connection that transcended time. The writer, a woman from another era, poured her heart into the pages, confessing a forbidden love that ultimately led to tragedy. As I read, a strange sensation washed over me, a mixture of empathy and sorrow. The stories within the diary were hauntingly familiar, as if they resonated with my own experiences. When I looked up, David's eyes bored into mine, and for a moment, I felt a connection that surpassed the boundaries of our brief acquaintance. The night deepened as we left the chapel, the shadows dancing around us. David suggested we return to the cabin, but an unsettling feeling lingered. The diary's tales echoed in my mind, weaving a web of mystery that surrounded David and his intentions. Back in the cabin, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. David, however, appeared unfazed, as if reveling in the unease that now enveloped us. Seeking answers, I asked him about the diary and the connection between its stories and our own lives. David's demeanor shifted, his charming facade cracking to reveal a darker truth. He confessed to hiring a private investigator to gather information about me, believing that uncovering my deepest fears and secrets would be the key to winning my heart. Shocked and betrayed, I demanded an explanation. With a cold smile, he admitted to orchestrating this elaborate weekend to manipulate me into falling for him. He reveled in the power he believed this knowledge would give him over my emotions. My sense of privacy shattered, I felt exposed and vulnerable. As panic set in, I contemplated my escape. David, however, seemed convinced that our connection was so profound that I would willingly submit to his control. Desperation fueled his actions as he recited intimate details about my life, leaving me trembling with a chilling realization of how closely he had monitored me. Summoning every ounce of courage, I grabbed my belongings and fled into the night. The forest, once enchanting, now felt like the shadows were closing in on me. The moon, once a comforting presence, now cast a cold light on my frantic escape. As I reached the edge of the woods, I glanced back at the cabin, its windows glowing ominously in the darkness. David's silhouette appeared in the doorway, a haunting figure against the cabin's facade. His voice echoed through the night, a blend of pleading and menace, but I dared not look back. I stumbled onto the road, flagging down a passing car that eventually led me to safety. The city lights brought a sense of relief, but the scars of that haunting weekend lingered. The betrayal, the invasion of privacy, and the manipulation left wounds that went beyond the physical. In the aftermath, I couldn't shake the feeling that the chapel and its mysterious diary held more secrets than I had uncovered. The stories within its pages were a reflection of the past, a past that David had weaponized to control and dominate. As I rebuilt my sense of security, the echoes of that chilling weekend served as a stark reminder that some encounters, no matter how enchanting they seem, are better left in the shadows. The air hung heavy with anticipation as Mark and I approached the mansion. Its imposing structure loomed against the moonlit sky, surrounded by an eerie silence that sent shivers down my spine. A chill ran through me as Mark clasped my hand, leading me toward the grand entrance. "Welcome to my family's estate," he said with a smile that barely concealed the secrets behind his piercing eyes. We entered the dimly lit foyer, adorned with antique furniture and faded portraits of stern-looking ancestors. Mark's family gathered in the drawing room, their eyes fixed on us as if scrutinizing our every move. Unease settled in the pit of my stomach, but curiosity pushed me forward. Mark's mother, a regal woman with silver hair, approached with a cold smile. "So glad you could join us, dear. Mark has spoken so highly of you." The room felt stifling, and I couldn't escape the feeling that every gaze carried a hidden agenda. Mark's family seemed to belong to another era, their customs and traditions shrouded in an unsettling mystery. Over dinner, the atmosphere grew more somber. Mark's father, a stoic figure at the head of the table, spoke in hushed tones about the family's lineage and the importance of preserving it. They hinted at a dark history, alluding to a series of deaths that had plagued the family for generations. As the night progressed, Mark's demeanor shifted. The warmth he had shown me earlier morphed into a cold determination. He spoke passionately about the family's legacy, emphasizing the need for continuity. Sensing my discomfort, I excused myself and wandered through the halls of the mansion. Flickering candles cast eerie shadows on the faded wallpaper, and the creaking floorboards echoed with the weight of secrets. I stumbled upon a dusty library, its shelves lined with ancient tomes and leather-bound journals. Intrigued, I began to peruse the entries, discovering the haunting tales of Mark's ancestors. Tales of madness, despair, and unexplained deaths. One particular entry caught my eye, a journal from the 19th century chronicling a woman named Isabella, Mark's distant relative. She had been confined to the mansion, isolated from the world, driven to madness by a force unseen. The more I read, the clearer the picture became. Mark's family was haunted not only by the specters of their past but by a sinister force that bound them to a tragic destiny. The journal hinted at a ritual, a desperate attempt to break the curse that had tormented the family for centuries. Shivers ran down my spine as I realized the gravity of my situation. Mark's passionate plea for continuity wasn't just about the family name. It was a plea to break the cycle, to find a willing participant in the ritual that would either free them from the malevolent force or doom them further. I rushed back to the drawing room, where Mark's family awaited. Their eyes seemed to penetrate my soul as Mark led me to a room concealed behind a heavy velvet curtain. "This is the heart of our legacy," he whispered, his voice tinged with urgency. The room was adorned with symbols and sigils, their meanings lost to time. In the center lay an ancient altar, worn by the touch of countless hands. Mark began to recite incantations, his words resonating with a haunting melody. As the ritual unfolded, I felt a growing unease. The air thickened with an otherworldly presence, and shadows danced along the walls. Mark's eyes gleamed with a fevered intensity as he beckoned me to join him at the altar. I hesitated, my instincts warning me of the consequences. The weight of centuries bore down on my shoulders as Mark's family watched, their faces a mixture of hope and desperation. In that moment, I understood the choice before me, to become entwined with a legacy steeped in darkness or to break free, severing ties with a family bound by a malevolent force. Summoning every ounce of courage, I stepped back from the altar. The room fell into an eerie silence as Mark's eyes widened with disbelief. "What are you doing?" he hissed, the desperation in his voice betraying the centuries of torment. "I won't be a pawn in your family's curse," I declared, my resolve unwavering. The room trembled as an unseen force recoiled, angered by my defiance. Shadows writhed, and the air crackled with an energy that spoke of ancient resentments. Mark's family stared in disbelief, torn between gratitude and condemnation. I turned away, leaving the room haunted by the echoes of centuries-old rituals. As I exited the mansion, the weight of the family's legacy lingered in the night air. The moon cast its pallid glow on the facade, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the mansion itself held the memories of countless souls ensnared by a curse that refused to be broken. The road stretched ahead, winding through the darkness as I left the mansion and its secrets behind. I couldn't erase the horror I had witnessed, nor the chilling realization that some legacies were destined to endure, no matter how fervently we tried to escape them. The wind howled through the cracked windows of the abandoned psychiatric hospital, creating an eerie symphony that resonated through the desolate corridors. Michael and I, drawn together by a shared interest in the paranormal, stood in the entrance hall, surrounded by the remnants of a forgotten past. The air was thick with an unsettling energy as dust motes danced in the pale moonlight. "Isn't this place incredible?" Michael's eyes gleamed with excitement, his voice barely a whisper. I hesitated, my instincts urging caution, but the allure of the mysterious setting had a grip on my curiosity. "It's definitely something," I replied, a nervous chuckle escaping my lips. As we ventured further into the heart of the decaying institution, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The walls seemed to close in, and the shadows played tricks on my mind. Michael led the way, his flashlight cutting through the darkness, revealing glimpses of rusted bed frames and shattered glass. As we approached the corridor where the patients' rooms lined up like silent sentinels, a peculiar sensation settled over me. It felt as if unseen eyes were watching, their gaze penetrating the layers of time that clung to the institution's rotting walls. "Do you believe in spirits, Emily?" Michael asked, his tone hushed. "I'm open to the possibility," I replied cautiously. "But why here? Why tonight?" Michael's eyes flickered with an intensity that made me uneasy. "There's a legend about this place. They say the spirits here can bind souls together, forever." The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, a shiver running down my spine. "That's just a legend, right?" He smiled, a chill creeping into his expression. "Some legends have a way of becoming reality. Tonight we'll test it." Unease settled in the pit of my stomach, but curiosity kept my feet moving. We reached a room at the end of the corridor, its door hanging from one rusty hinge. Michael motioned for me to enter, and as I stepped over the threshold, a gust of wind slammed the door shut behind me. Panic bubbled within me, but before I could react, a whisper echoed through the darkness. "Emily." I spun around, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The voice had sounded distant, ethereal, as if carried by a ghostly breeze. "Michael, is this some kind of joke?" His voice responded from the other side of the door, muffled and distant. "I didn't say anything. Are you okay in there?" My heart pounded in my chest as I scanned the room. The walls seemed to pulse with unseen energy, and my breath caught in my throat. Another whisper, softer this time, beckoning me deeper into the shadows. "Follow my voice, Emily." I hesitated but pressed on, compelled by a force I couldn't comprehend. The room seemed to expand and contract with each step, distorting reality. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a silhouette in the corner, mirroring my every movement. It was as if my own reflection had come to life. "Who's there?" I stammered, the fear in my voice betraying my composure. The silhouette remained silent but beckoned me closer. Against my better judgment, I approached, the darkness giving way to a dim light emanating from a cracked window. What I saw froze me in my tracks. The figure wasn't a reflection, it was a woman, her eyes hollow and vacant. She wore a tattered hospital gown, her hair disheveled and matted. But what struck me most was the striking resemblance. She looked exactly like me. "Emily," she whispered, her voice a haunting echo. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling with disbelief. "This can't be real. Who are you?" She pointed to a dusty mirror on the wall, its surface clouded with time. As I approached, the truth unfolded before me. The woman in the mirror wasn't a separate entity. It was me, but from another time, trapped in the echoes of the hospital's tormented past. Michael burst into the room, concern etched across his face. "What happened? Why did you scream?" I gestured to the mirror, my voice trembling. "Look! Do you see her? That's me." He studied the reflection, his expression shifting from concern to something darker. "It worked," he muttered, a sinister satisfaction in his eyes. I recoiled, realizing that Michael's intentions weren't rooted in the quest for the paranormal, but in something far more disturbing. "What did you do?" He grinned, the shadows deepening the malevolence in his eyes. "I wanted us to be bound together forever. Our souls connected through time. I stumbled back, the room closing in on me. This is insane. You can't control something like that. Michael's laughter echoed through the room, a chilling soundtrack to my growing terror. But I can, Emily. And now, our souls are intertwined, destined to roam this place for all eternity. As his words hung in the air, the spectral version of myself in the mirror reached out, her hand passing through the glass. The room trembled with an otherworldly energy, and I felt a strange connection, an inexplicable link to a time long gone. Desperation fueled my actions. I grabbed the mirror, ignoring Michael's protests, and hurled it to the ground. The room convulsed, the oppressive energy lifting, and the spectral figure disappeared. What have you done? Michael's face contorted with rage. I won't be part of your twisted obsession, I declared, my voice unwavering. The hospital seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief as we stumbled out into the moonlit night. The echoes of the past faded, leaving behind the remnants of a once haunted place. As Michael and I went our separate ways, I couldn't shake the feeling that, in breaking the connection, I had severed ties with a dark chapter of my own soul. The abandoned psychiatric hospital stood silent, its secrets buried in the shadows, a testament to the thin veil between the living and the echoes of the past that linger in forgotten places.